Welcome back to ABC General Hospital Spoilers channel, where today we will explore a compelling storyline that reveals the escalating dangers threatening 3 young lives in Port Charles. The narrative centers around a grave warning delivered by Jason Morgan to Lulu Spencer regarding the perilous circumstances surrounding her children and their extended family connections. This intricate web of vulnerability, family ties, and criminal underworld entanglements sets the stage for what promises to be a tumultuous period for 3 innocent teenagers. The warning that changed everything. During the episode airing on November 26th, General Hospital presented a pivotal scene where Jason Morgan delivered a message of grave concern and urgency to Lulu Spencer. Rather than offering vague warnings, Jason articulated specific threats targeting what matters most to Lulu, her children's safety and well-being. This conversation was born from Jason's intimate knowledge of the criminal underworld, his decades-long experience navigating dangerous territories, and his sophisticated understanding of how predators operate within Port Charles's shadowy corridors of power and corruption. The absence of Professor Henry Hank Dalton from this discussion is notably significant, suggesting Jason possessed information compelling enough to warrant an immediate conversation with Lulu without waiting for additional context. Jason's measured but firm delivery indicated he had already processed the information, analyzed potential outcomes, and determined that Lulu needed to understand the magnitude of threats facing her family members. The conversation transcended typical soap opera drama, representing a mature acknowledgement of harsh realities existing within Port Charles's constantly shifting landscape of danger and deception. 3 young lives in the crosshairs. The 3 teenagers identified as vulnerable are Danny Morgan, Rocco Falconeri, and Charlotte Casadini, each connected to Port Charles through complex family dynasties and powerful parental figures whose influence extends into both criminal and legitimate business sectors. Danny Morgan, as Jason's own child, carries the weight of his father's legendary reputation and the substantial enemies that reputation has accumulated over multiple decades of organized crime and vigilantism. Rocco Falconeri inherits the complicated legacy of his father Dante's law enforcement career and his mother's family history spanning generations of Port Charles drama. Charlotte Casadini represents the most intricate web of dangerous connections as Valentine Casadini's daughter, with step-sibling relationships tracing back to one of Port Charles's most notorious crime families. This young girl's DNA connects her to a legacy of international espionage, corporate manipulation, and a family business empire built on questionable and often illegal foundations. Each teenager, through no fault of their own, represents a potential leverage point for enemies seeking to manipulate, control, or harm their respective parents and family members who occupy positions of power and influence throughout Port Charles. The web of dangerous affiliations. Jason methodically outlined for Lulu the specific individuals whose dangerous connections directly impact these 3 teenagers' safety, creating a comprehensive threat assessment far exceeding surface-level concerns. Sonny Corinthos, as one of Port Charles's most prominent organized crime figures, inevitably draws the attention and enmity of numerous adversaries who would view his child as an acceptable target for retaliation, extortion, or control. Laura Collins, while serving as mayor and matriarch of the Spencer family, operates within political circles generating their own collection of enemies and individuals bearing grudges for decisions made over the years. Britt Westburn, as a medical professional with complicated family history and questionable ethical boundaries, brings additional complications into this dangerous equation of interconnected threats and overlapping vulnerabilities. Her professional position and family connections create multiple vectors through which dangerous individuals could potentially access or manipulate the teenagers. Valentine Casadini, the powerful businessman and former spy with deep roots in international crime syndicates, represents the most internationally connected threat, with enemies spanning continents who would view his stepdaughter as leverage in their ongoing conflicts. Jason emphasized that each individual possesses an extensive and ever-growing list of adversaries, professional enemies, and personal antagonists who would not hesitate before exploiting innocent children to achieve their strategic objectives. In Port Charles's criminal underworld's ruthless calculus, collateral damage in the form of vulnerable teenagers represents an acceptable consequence of pursuing larger strategic goals. The enemies of these powerful figures operate without moral constraints, ethical considerations, or emotional attachments that might otherwise deter them from targeting the young and innocent. A mother's desperate resolve. Lulu Spencer's response to Jason's detailed warning reflected both her maternal instinct to protect her children and her pragmatic understanding of genuine threats pervading Port Charles's atmosphere of constant danger. She concurred completely with Jason's assessment, acknowledging that her children exist as targets within this perilous landscape, showing no signs of becoming safer for families seeking peaceful existence. Lulu's firm declaration that she would do everything within her power to keep her children safe demonstrated her determination while highlighting the tragic limitations of parental protection in a city where danger emerges daily from countless unexpected directions. This verbal commitment represented more than casual reassurance. It reflected Lulu's understanding that protecting her children would require constant vigilance, difficult decisions, and potentially costly sacrifices, testing her resolve. The conversation served as a sobering acknowledgement that even within comparative safety of family homes, vulnerability persists because threats originate from sources far beyond any ordinary family's ability to completely neutralize or control through conventional means. The reckless nature of youth. Adding considerable complexity to this dangerous situation is the inherent recklessness and youthful overconfidence characterizing the three teenagers. Despite their exposure to danger and proximity to adults, constantly navigating life-threatening scenarios, Rocco, Charlotte, and Danny display typical teenage tendencies to underestimate genuine threats, believe themselves invulnerable due to youth and presumed innocence, and dismiss parental warnings as exaggerated expressions of excessive concern. This disconnect between actual peril and their subjective perception of safety creates dangerous vulnerability that predatory individuals and criminal organizations could easily exploit. The teenagers' apparent obliviousness to the reality that their mere existence as children of powerful figures places their lives at genuine risk compounds the threat significantly. Young people, by developmental nature, often possess limited capacity to comprehend serious consequences flowing from associating with certain individuals or stumbling upon dangerous secrets powerful people would kill to protect. This youthful vulnerability combined with sophisticated threats creates scenarios wherein protective measures become increasingly inadequate against potential dangers manifesting at any moment. The lab break-in and mysterious projects. Recent General Hospital narrative developments intensified concerns regarding the teenager safety, particularly the troubling incident involving a break-in at a secure laboratory facility. This breach represents more than simple security failure. It signals that dangerous individuals are actively investigating or attempting to locate something connected to the laboratory's protected research and classified projects. The connection between this break-in and Jen Sidwell, an individual willing to go to extraordinary illegal lengths to safeguard a mysterious project, suggests that teenagers could inadvertently become entangled in conflicts far exceeding their understanding. The mysterious project that Sidwell protects remains partially obscured, but its existence alone indicates powerful forces moving behind scenes pursuing objectives warranting serious security measures and substantial resource expenditure to maintain secrecy. If teenagers, through innocent curiosity or accidental discovery, became aware of this project or its details, their knowledge alone could transform them from incidental bystanders into serious threats requiring neutralization or control. The laboratory breach suggests operational security has been compromised, creating expanded opportunities for other interested parties to target teenagers as potential information sources or leverage. Looming threats and potential catastrophes. The foreboding tone established through Jason and Lulu's conversation combined with the laboratory break-in and mysterious projects it suggests, creates an atmosphere of escalating danger with multiple potential trigger points for future crises. Beyond established threats, represented by family's documented enemies, other formidable adversaries could emerge from unexpected quarters, drawn by rumors of teenagers' involvement in sensitive matters or proximity to valuable information. The potential for additional complications multiplies daily as circumstances evolve, new players enter the game, and existing conflicts intensify beyond current parameters. Whether teenagers face kidnapping scenarios designed to force parental capitulation, suffer serious physical injuries from direct confrontation with hostile forces, or experience psychological trauma from exposure to violence and criminal activity, potential chaos looms large and unavoidable. Port Charles's history demonstrates such worst-case scenarios are not merely theoretical possibilities, but documented occurrences repeatedly affecting the city's younger residents. The narrative trajectory established through recent episodes suggests accelerating momentum towards significant events that will test protective abilities of Jason, Lulu, and the extended family network to their absolute limits. The rescue operation question. As situations develop and potential crises emerge, reasonable speculation suggests that Jason and Lulu may find themselves directly involved in rescue operations designed to extract teenagers from dangerous situations or protect them against imminent threats. Jason's particular skills in tactical situations, combat effectiveness, and willingness to operate in moral gray areas make him invaluable for scenarios requiring aggressive protective measures or confrontation with organized criminal elements. Lulu's maternal determination and personal experience navigating Port Charles's dangers position her as crucial component of any protective operation safeguarding her children. The question of whether this protective mission might require Britt Westburn to collaborate with Lulu adds another complexity layer to potential scenarios, suggesting teenagers' safety might depend upon cooperation between individuals with complicated relationships and questionable trust histories. Britt's medical expertise could prove invaluable in injury or medical emergency scenarios, while her knowledge of Port Charles's shadowy criminal networks could provide tactical advantages during rescue operations. The prospect of Lulu and Britt working together despite complicated history would represent significant character moments demonstrating priorities transcending personal conflicts when children's lives hang in balance. What lies ahead? General Hospital spoilers circulating throughout entertainment press indicate that unsettling news and dramatic developments await Danny, Charlotte, and Rocco in coming episodes and storylines. The convergence of multiple threat vectors, established family enemies, mysterious criminal projects, compromised laboratory security, and teenagers' own youthful vulnerability creates fertile ground for the show's writers to develop compelling, emotionally resonant narratives testing every member of the protective network these young people depend upon for safety. Viewers should prepare for potential shocking revelations, unexpected alliances, dramatic confrontations, and possibly tragic consequences as the storyline develops according to Port Charles's constantly shifting criminal and social landscape. The journey from Jason's initial warning through whatever crisis ultimately unfolds promises delivery of complex, emotionally engaging drama sustaining General Hospital as a cultural institution for decades. We remain committed to keeping you updated on all unexpected developments, surprising plot twists, and dramatic revelations emerging as this compelling storyline involving three vulnerable teenagers reaches its inevitable climax and resolution. NEXT, we're diving deep into a compelling storyline centered on Laura Collins and the devastating psychological aftermath she faces following the horrifying discovery of a corpse in her car trunk. As the matriarch of one of the show's most legendary families, Laura has weathered countless storms throughout her extraordinary life on the canvas. But nothing compares to discovering Henry Dalton's body concealed in her vehicle. This traumatic event will unleash a cascade of emotional turmoil, forcing Laura to confront not only her present circumstances, but also the dark shadows of her past that have haunted her for decades. The circumstances surrounding this shocking discovery are far more sinister than they appear. Jen Sidwell, driven by malevolent intentions, has orchestrated an elaborate scheme designed to frame Laura for Henry Dalton's murder. However, Laura is innocent of this particular crime. The body in the trunk is merely a calculated pawn in Sidwell's dangerous game of deception, a twisted attempt to destroy Laura's reputation and freedom. Yet this revelation doesn't erase the fact that Laura carries a far more complicated history. Her past is littered with incidents of violence, each one carefully concealed and each one leaving psychological scars that have never fully healed. To understand the gravity of Laura's current predicament, one must examine the darker chapters of her personal history. Years ago, when Laura was merely a teenager, she found herself in a life-or-death struggle with David Hamilton. In a moment of pure survival instinct, she pushed him away, and in a cruel twist of fate, he fell and struck his head fatally. This wasn't premeditated murder, it was self-defense. Scotty Baldwin, recognizing her innocence, took decisive action to cover up the incident and shield her from legal consequences. But the violence didn't end there. Years later, Laura became entangled in another deadly situation involving Rick Weber and his lover, Teresa Carter. In another tragic turn of events, Laura killed Teresa, and Scotty Baldwin once again stepped in to help conceal what happened. Rick Weber himself became complicit, as he and Scotty buried Teresa's body in the backyard. However, Rick harbored a dangerous strategy. As Laura's suppressed memories began surfacing, he administered drugs to suppress those traumatic recollections, attempting to keep her psychological state manageable through pharmaceutical intervention. The situation escalated when Laura's suppressed memories broke through Rick's chemical barriers. Desperate to maintain control and prevent her psychological collapse, Rick attempted to inject her again with memory-suppressing drugs, but pushed to her absolute limit and facing what she perceived as a threat to her mental autonomy, Laura killed Rick Weber as well. This third act of violence sent her into profound psychological crisis. She descended into a catatonic state that persisted for several years, lost to the world. During these years of incapacity, Tracy Quartermain stepped into a maternal role, becoming the primary caregiver for Lulu Spencer, ensuring Laura's daughter was raised with love and stability. These historical events form the foundation of Laura's current psychological fragility. The discovery of Henry Dalton's corpse in her trunk has triggered a cascade of traumatic memories rooted in her violent past. The shock of encountering a dead body regardless of her innocence in that death has reopened old psychological wounds that had begun to scar over. Laura now grapples with the very real possibility of developing post-traumatic stress disorder, manifesting through nightmares, flashbacks, anxiety, and overwhelming vulnerability. Before Laura can fully process this trauma, she receives an unexpected blessing, a happy surprise arriving at precisely the moment she needs it most. One strong possibility is that Kevin Collins, her beloved husband and the person she instinctively turned to when the crisis unfolded, might return from Dublin for a short visit. An in-person visit from Kevin would represent far more than just an appearance. It would symbolize the emotional anchor and stability Laura desperately requires. Another compelling possibility is that Lucky Spencer, her beloved son, might make an appearance to stand by his mother during her greatest need. Lucky has always represented strength and resilience in the Spencer family legacy. Alternatively, the happy surprise could involve someone already possessing intimate knowledge of Laura's history and predicament. Sonny Corinthos, the powerful patriarch of the Corinthos family, has been deeply involved in the unfolding drama and possesses crucial information about Dalton's death and Sidwell's deception. Jason Morgan, another central figure who has proven trustworthy with dangerous secrets, could also serve as a confidant for Laura during this vulnerable time. When Laura finally opens up to someone she trusts, she will pour out the full extent of her fears and psychological distress. She will articulate how the image of the body refuses to leave her mind and how it has triggered cascading memories of her violent past. This unburdening, while necessary and therapeutic, won't immediately resolve her internal conflict. In fact, Immediately following this emotional catharsis, Laura may find herself even more haunted by her articulated experiences. The nightmares could intensify as her subconscious processes both immediate and historical traumas. The flashbacks that plagued Laura will likely transport her back through the years, forcing her to relive the moments when she killed David Hamilton in self-defense, when she became entangled in Teresa Carter's death, and when she defended herself against Rick Weber's attempts to suppress her consciousness. These vivid, unbidden memories could arrive at unexpected moments when seeing a particular object, hearing a specific voice, or simply when her guard is lowered. The irony is profound. Despite being completely innocent of Henry Dalton's murder, Laura experiences genuine psychological trauma simply from discovering a dead body. Yet despite these circumstances and the possibility of psychological deterioration, Laura possesses a reservoir of inner strength often underestimated by those around her. While she will likely experience significant nightmares and vivid flashbacks in the coming weeks, the likelihood of her descending into another prolonged catatonic state appears relatively low. The Laura of today is not the same vulnerable teenager or broken woman who lost years to dissociation. She has evolved, developed coping mechanisms, and learned to channel pain into fierce determination. Laura will rise to meet this challenge with the fighting spirit that has defined her character throughout her General Hospital tenure. She will stand firm in her conviction of innocence and work tirelessly to expose Jen Sidwell's elaborate deception. Her commitment to justice will extend beyond her own exoneration. She will fight for Sonny Corinthos and protect Rocco Falconeri, the young child whose life has been thrown into chaos. Laura's role as matriarch, protector, and fighter will ultimately prove to be the force carrying her through this darkness. The lessons learned from surviving her violent past, enduring years of psychological struggle, and rebuilding her life will converge to give her the strength to overcome this crisis and demonstrate that trauma, while deeply damaging, does not define one's future.